Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we have Yang Q on the call. So apparently, I think I'm going to get started.
Yeah.
Since you're obviously going to be recording this, probably you could share later with members of the community. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us. My name is Charles Freeborn. I'm a technical content strategist for the Ipfs and Filecoin projects at Protocol Labs, and excited to be giving this talk to the Web3 meta space in Nairobi. So I'm joining you from Nigeria, and I'll be giving a talk on introduction to Filecoin, right? So basically, when I say I'm a technical content strategist for the Ipfs and Filecoin projects at Protocol Labs, by being a technical content strategist, what I basically do is getting to create technical contents around Ipfs and Filecoin, and then getting to do some form of developer advocacy across the African continent. So super excited and honored to have me join you today. So we'll get started. All right, so we're going to just go through this agenda. Basically, first, we're going to start with an high-level overview of what Ipfs is all about, and then we'll get into Filecoin, probably go through some core concepts around Ipfs and Filecoin, and then give you an opportunity to get access to learning resources if you want to actually get to learn more about what Filecoin and Ipfs is all about. All right, so we're going to get started with Ipfs, right? So basically, Ipfs is actually like a short form or an acronym for the Interplanetary File System. It is actually a protocol that is built basically to power Web3. So from what I have here, I noted down by saying that Ipfs is a distributed system for storing and accessing and addressing files, websites, apps, and data. In Ipfs, one of the core concepts that actually drive Ipfs, the Interplanetary File System, is the focus on content over location, right? So let me zoom out a little bit. If you're used to getting to accessing the web, the internet, with HTTP request, for example, you make a request you want to access a particular website, for example, and most times your request goes through a protocol, which apparently most of you will be familiar with, which is the HTTP or HTTPS. Let me go back. All right, so Ipfs basically is a distributed system for storing and addressing files, websites, apps, and data. The Ipfs is actually a protocol built basically for decentralizing the web. The Ipfs is focused on content over location. So what we mean by that is when we say content and not location, for example, we're saying that I'm going to use the analogy of the traditional getting to access the web 2 or web 1, for example. If you make a request, if you open your web browser and you make a request to a particular website, for example, you are making a request to a server, right? You're making a request to a server to get these files or website from a particular location or a central location, right? So if the request you make gets to the server, for example, and that's content or website or file that you're looking for is not on that particular location, what happens? You get a feedback back. Sometimes could be what we call a 404, probably page not found or sites not available or files not found, right? In Ipfs, we do not focus on, the focus is not on the location, the focus is on content. So if you make a request for a file or a website using the Ipfs protocol, for example, that request is going to check based on the content of the website or the file that you want to access, right? In IPFS, there is no reliance on a central server. Instead, we have lots of computers that are connected via the protocol, the IPFS protocol, and you can use that to actually share content or information. So one of the key principles behind IPFS is also the concept of peer-to-peer sharing, right? And then one of the core principles behind IPFS. So when we say IPFS is like a short form for Interplanetary File System, right? So for those of you that are actually probably just seeing the word IPFS for the first time, that is why I'm using giving you the full name, Interplanetary File System. When we say the first word here, interplanetary, when we say something is interplanetary, that means one, it is distributed, is not based on a central server. If you're used to getting to access websites or getting to use certain applications, for example, there could be a chance that you could be cut off from the service, or have some form of issues getting to get access to that site or application if you have challenges with your network provider, right? For IPFS, one of the central goal for IPFS is that every computer, so this is something that's really, really quite exciting for me about the IPFS, is your system, right, could work as a client and a server. Pardon me to use client server right now. So your system could work as a client and also as a server, right? So when we say peer-to-peer, I mentioned earlier about peer-to-peer and nodes, for example. Your
here in Kenya over the last couple of months.
Sorry, can you mute?
Papa Fred is an international conman who is now based in Nairobi, and
Victoria, can you mute?
namely Miss Victoria, the Mahindras, among others. And so we were tipped off.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so I was talking to, I guess started with what basically interplanetary is. So one, by interplanetary, we say it is distributed, no reliance on a central server, right? So you have control, right? It is resilient and offline first. So there will basically be no challenges with you getting to access websites or files if you have a downtime. And then it also gives us an opportunity. With IPFS, we're actually getting to what upgrade the web, right? So core concepts, well, already talked about that. You have decentralization, resilient internet. Content is actually difficult to censor because basically everyone is contributing to the network, right? So like, for example, in our ecosystem, we use the word providers, right? So if you have a node, for example, we're going to come to that. If you have a node, for example, running, if you have a node, you have IPFS set up on your system, for example, you could actually get to provide content. You'll be able to provide content to end users or whoever it is that's actually requesting a file or a website. And then it's you, I mentioned this in the previous slide, being able to get to use it to speed up and upgrade the web. And then I talked about earlier, and I talked about content addressing. So another core principle behind IPFS is the concept of content addressing. The CID you're seeing there stands for content identifiers. So here's the thing about IPFS when it comes to content addressing. So let's say you have two images. Okay, let's say you go to your web browser and you Google an image. Let's say an image of a dog, for example. You could come out, you're probably going to find quite a large number of images showing you a particular dog, let's say a German Shepherd, for example, right? So let's say you Google German Shepherd, and you're probably going to see the same dog multiple pictures spread across the internet or across the web. If someone gets a hold of any of this of that particular image, for example, he or she can modify that image and then reshare the image, right? Okay, he or she can actually okay, this is a visual presentation, so apparently I'm going to assume that you're actually getting what I'm saying. So somebody gets that same image, edits the image and shares the image again. How are we able to know, for example, that the image you are actually viewing or looking at has been edited or modified? There's a chance that you probably never be able to get to know that the image has been doctored or modified because you're probably assessing it. If you're coming from a Web 2.0 background, you're probably assessing it based on its location. In IPFS, we are hinged on content addressing. There is a unique identifier, which is the content identifier that every content or file, websites, okay, let me zero down on file. A file would have, every file on IPFS is usually assigned a content identifier via a cryptographic hash. This is a high level overview, not trying to go too technical. So if a content or a file is, if a file is on the IPFS protocol, for example, and you want to, that file has a unique ID, which is the content identifier. If you want to verify the authenticity of that particular file on the IPFS platform, all you need to do is just to verify the hash, that is the content identifier. It will tell you that the same content you're accessing, for example, matches this hash as in HASH, right? So every content on IPFS has a unique identifier, which we refer to as a content identifier. And so IPFS works, one of the basic principles around IPFS is the principle of content addressing. We focus on content and not location. And then another thing about IPFS is that it is an opportunity for everybody to get to participate on the network. So it works if everyone is participating. So you could set up a node on your system, and then you're able to actually share content or pair with different nodes across the globe. So is that so I'm going to go into getting to talk about using IPFS. So I mentioned in the previous slide about getting to have a node. You can actually run your own node on IPFS. I think we're going to have opportunities to actually get to discuss these probably in subsequent workshops or sections. And then you can hope that your content, so if you have a content, for example, let's start with the first one. You can run your own node on IPFS. That invariably makes you a provider, right? A storage provider. You can also hope that the content that you are hosting, I'm going to be using the word hosting, the content that you are hosting can get so popular that other nodes, other people can actually get to use theirs to also get to actually share your stuff. You can run your own network of nodes, right? So more like getting to work as a team. And then you can also pin a service to a content, right? So there are platforms like Pinata, Tempora that you can actually use to pin. You can pay a pinning service to actually pin your content on the node. And that is what is going to lead into talk about Filecoin. So just in case you're wondering why I started with IPFS, trying to build a high level of what IPFS is, and then we'll jump into getting to see the link between IPFS and Filecoin, right? Okay, so Having said all that, we're going to jump into the bane of today's talk, which is Filecoin. Uh, at a very high level overview, when we say Filecoin, um, let me zoom out a little bit. Quite a number of individuals that I get to see and I talk to and I say, okay, Filecoin, I'm talking about Filecoin. Most times, the first thing that probably comes to their mind is it a crypto currency that one can actually just trade on crypto markets space? Is actually beyond that. So I'm going to start by telling you this, that Filecoin is actually a decentralized storage network. So we talked about IPFS. Why IPFS is like a protocol, Filecoin is a decentralized storage system. Filecoin is a peer-to-peer network that you can use to store files on the internet, and it comes with built-in economic incentives to ensure files are stored reliably over time. Big statement, or probably compound statement. Basically, what it means is when we say it comes with Filecoin is a peer-to-peer network and it comes with built-in economic incentives, is that in our ecosystem, we use the term providers, right? So you could choose to be a storage provider. And one of the benefits of being a storage provider is that Filecoin gives you an opportunity to actually get to have some economic reward, right? Um, Filecoin is a blockchain and a native crypto, FIL5, which you could actually exchange for coins like Bitcoin. And in your getting to use Filecoin, storage provider, in getting to use Filecoin, for example, as a storage provider, you could actually sell storage in an open space and earn units of 5 for storing files. Do you recall what we said in our previous slide? Let me go there, that you can pay a pinning service to pin your content on the node. So you could choose to say, okay, I have a dedicated space, for example, unusable space on my device that I'm not using, and I want to provide the storage in the open market. And then those users, let me use the word users who want to actually store their files over a period of time, or can actually get to pay you for the service, for the storage service that you're providing, and then you earn this in units of 5, which is a crypto that you could actually exchange for any other coin, or you could even hold on to 5. Um, Filecoin is, I already mentioned this, so let's come back to this. So Filecoin is storage designed for Web3 from the ground up. I started by talking about IPFS. Filecoin is compatible with IPFS and Web3. You use IPFS as a building block to share all the content, all the benefits of content addressing and content, all the benefits of content addressing and content identifiers, and then you integrate Web3 networks like Near and Hedera. Um, Filecoin is verifiable, or you can actually get to use this to, I think, verifiable. So this is not a talk around Web3 and the decentralized. Okay, this goes beyond. So one of the key principles or um, binding principles around the Web3 ecosystem, for example, is the concept of verifiability, right? So with Filecoin, you can actually verify via cryptographic. You could actually, so 3 core concepts compatible with IPFS and Web3, verifiable via cryptographic proofs, and then it is a massive decentralized network. So core concepts, verifiable storage on Filecoin. You or your app can make a deal with a provider to store your data, which I mentioned about 2 slides away. And providers can generate an initial proof of replication. That's part of the storage deal that they published to the blockchain, to the Filecoin blockchain. So basically, if I was you, I'll be asking myself that if I'm making storage, or if I'm storing in files on a particular provider, for example, how do I get to know, or how do I get to actually know that the person who's providing this storage is actually storing the files? That is where proof of replication comes in. So you actually, they have an opportunity. So we actually get to ensure that they are actually storing these files continually. Then over time, providers have to keep proving that they still have subsets of your data and creating proofs of space-time. They are paid incrementally for keeping up the storage deal. Recall what we talked about, you get to earn phi over time, and then you get your data by making retrieval deals. So you want to get retrieval. You want to retrieve the files or the data that you've stored. You could actually get access to these files via data retrieval or retrieval deals. So getting to merge the two together, you have IPFS on one side and then Filecoin on the other side. So basically, from a very high level perspective, you see that IPFS is actually for content addressing and data discovery. And I could also say that it's also a protocol for Web3 space and for the Web3 space / ecosystem. And then Filecoin is actually for persistence and verifiability. So persistence, getting to actually store data, files, or websites, or that, but then verifiability, getting to know that the file or data that you're storing is actually being stored. So in summary, Filecoin is a protocol and it's also a network. We said most builders will take advantage of the ecosystem of libraries, tools, and services to build great tools, right? So if you want to get started, inspired by my brief presentation, you want to get started with getting to learn more about IPFS and Filecoin, we have quite a number of awesome resources. First, for IPFS, we have the IPFS documentation, which is docs.ipfs.io. We also have the Filecoin docs, docs.filecoin.io, and then we also have the Proto School. And then we also have an amazing IPFS YouTube channels. These are awesome resources that you could actually use to get started in your journey into becoming perhaps a Filecoin perhaps a provider, or getting to build on top of the IPFS protocol. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to entertain questions at this time.
Thank you so much, Charles. Yeah, that was wonderful.
All right, let me see if I could go through the chats. If there's any question, you could drop it on the chats. All right, no question. All right, so Victoria, I'm handing over back to you.
All right.
As the host and MC. So questions, comments, feedback. Happy to hear that. Learn about all of them right now. Okay. All right. Jordan wants to ask a question. Please proceed.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I have an application that I'm building on another blockchain, okay. And I wanted to see if is there a way that is Filecoin the native coin for IPFS, or if I want to set my document there, do I need to buy a Filecoin to do so?
Let me get a question clearly. Is Filecoin the native coin for IPFS?
Yeah.
Okay, I would say yes. And do you need to actually okay, so one of the things, okay, let me zoom out first and I'm going to answer a question. One of the things we've realized in the blockchain ecosystem over a period of time, particularly in Africa, is quite a number of individuals actually focused on getting to do what we call cryptocurrency trading, right? Our focus in the IPFS and Filecoin project is getting to ensure that builders, you said you're building an application, right? On top of,
Yeah.
where are you building on?
I'm building it on top of Zero blockchain. So there are some documents that I'm thinking of installing them on IPFS. It's actually something that I was learning before I joined the class.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if Filecoin is the native coin, it means that I'll have to convert the Zero native currency to Filecoin so that then I can be able to upload the files. Yeah.
Yes. That is correct. That is correct. So if you want to, so yes, I think you've already answered the question. So the thing is this: storage providers, like I said earlier on, are given an incentive to provide storage space for whatever it is you want to store. So you want to store documents, for example, on top of Filecoin. So you deposit, or you have to use the native coin, which is File, to be able to make that deal. So yes, so the answer is yes. So Filecoin is actually the native coin for that deal, in making such deals.
Okay.
All right, so 2 more minutes. Supposed to wrap up by 12:30. Victoria, do you have a question?
No, I don't have any question.
All right. Okay, so at this point, I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to actually join your community and give this talk. Really, really honored and excited. And I want to wish you the very best. I understand you have an on-site event coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, there's an event for those who are in Nairobi. It's gonna happen at iHub Kilimani from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. You're welcome. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. So best of luck in your subsequent Filecoin Orbit events.
Thank you so much for presenting to us, and we're looking forward to having more talks with you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.